Have you ever looked at wealthy people and wondered, what's their secret? Like, really, how do they build that kind of freedom? Do they work harder than everyone else? Maybe. Were they born into the right family? Possibly. But what if I told you the answer was a lot simpler and more boring than you think? What if I told you that the secret to massive wealth wasn't in winning big, but in doing something small, consistently, every single day? That's what I discovered the day I stumbled across a simple idea that changed everything. The 1% habit rule. And today I want to tell you the story of how a tiny shift, this ridiculously small principle, transformed not only my finances, but my mindset, my career, and eventually my life. You see, I wasn't always someone who had their act together. In fact, just a few years ago, I was deep in debt, barely saving anything, and stuck in a job I didn't love. I kept telling myself I'd figure it out someday, but someday never came. What did come were excuses, distractions, and 1,000 unfinished goals. I tried budgeting apps. I tried hustle culture. I even tried manifesting. Yep, candles and everything. But nothing stuck. I'd set goals at the beginning of the month, feel pumped for 3 days, then crash hard. I blamed my discipline. I blamed the economy. Sometimes I blamed my parents. But deep down, I knew it wasn't about blame. It was about clarity. And until I had that, I was just running in circles. Until one night, after another long day of doing everything and achieving nothing, I came across a line in a book that hit me like a freight train. It said, if you get 1% better every day, you'll be 37 times better at the end of the year. Not 37% better, 37 times better. I paused, reread it, did the math, and realized small, consistent improvements compound in a way that almost nothing else does. That line rewired my brain. I realized I didn't need a breakthrough. I needed a practice. I didn't need to become a new person overnight. I just needed to become slightly better every day. That was the beginning. I called it the rule of 1%, and I decided to test it on the area that caused me the most anxiety, my money. On day one, I didn't open a brokerage account. I didn't set a big financial goal. I didn't write a 5-year plan. I just read an article, just one, about saving versus investing. 5 minutes. Done. Day 2, I logged into my bank account, which I had avoided for weeks, and wrote down every recurring expense I had. I was shocked. I was bleeding slowly. Netflix, Spotify, 2 apps I didn't even remember subscribing to. That awareness? That was my 1% that day. Day 3, I canceled 2 subscriptions, saved $24 a month. That's $280 a year. And on day 4, I watched a free video on compound interest. I didn't do anything with that knowledge yet. I just absorbed it. But here's the thing. I was building momentum. Every day that I did something small, I started feeling like I wasn't broken. I was just untrained. And this 1% habit, it was my training ground. I wasn't overhauling my life. I wasn't burning out and starting over. I was stacking progress quietly. By the end of the first week, I had started a spreadsheet to track expenses. By the end of the second, I'd opened a high-yield savings account. By the end of the third, I set up automatic transfers. Just 5 a week. But it was automatic, predictable. I was building something. And here's what no one talks about. Confidence doesn't come from motivation. It comes from keeping promises to yourself. And every day I showed up and did one tiny financial action. I kept that promise. I stopped thinking of myself as bad with money. I started thinking of myself as a builder, a learner, someone becoming 1% better, not perfect, just better. And that belief, that was the most valuable thing I built. Over time, I started applying the 1% rule to other parts of my life. My health. I didn't sign up for a hardcore workout plan. I just did 10 push-ups a day. That was it. And when 10 became easy, I added 5 more. After 3 months, I was doing 50 push-ups a day without thinking. My brain? I read 2 pages a night. Just 2. But those 2 pages added up. In 1 year, I had finished more books than I had in the past 5 years combined. My relationships? I started sending 1 message a day, a compliment, a thank you, a quick check-in. I reconnected with people, repaired old connections, built new ones, and my wealth? That's the crazy part. I started with just a savings account. Then I moved into index funds, then Roth IRA, then dollar cost averaging. None of this was fancy. None of this was fast, but it was consistent and it worked. Within 18 months, I went from having 0 savings to having 3 months emergency fund, then 6. Then, to my disbelief, a 5-figure investment account. Not because I made big moves, but because I made daily micro decisions that built on top of each other. That's the 1% habit rule. It's invisible at first, quiet, unimpressive, but eventually it becomes undeniable. And here's the real lesson. Most people overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate what they can do in a year. They chase motivation, get overwhelmed, burn out, then restart. But you don't have to. You can start small. You can stack wins. You can build momentum that turns into mastery. And when that happens, everything changes. You stop saying, someday. You stop fearing failure. You stop doubting yourself because you're not relying on willpower anymore. You're relying on rhythm, and rhythm beats motivation every time. So if you're watching this right now and you feel stuck, overwhelmed, lost in your own finances or goals or dreams, hear me loud and clear. You are one small action away from momentum. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to do everything. You just need to do something in today, then again tomorrow. The rule is simple. What's one thing you can do today to be 1% better than you were yesterday? Just one. Read 1 page. Cancel 1 subscription. Put $10 into savings. Write down 1 idea. Take 1 walk. Drink 1 glass of water. Compliment 1 person. Journal 1 paragraph. Learn 1 new thing. Do it today. Then again tomorrow. And again. And again. Watch what happens in 30 days. Then 60, then 365. Because by that point, if you've kept going, you won't just be better. You'll be unrecognizable. You'll look back and think, how did this happen? And the answer will be simple. 1% at a time. That stopped me cold. Because for the first time, I understood something I had missed my whole life. Success isn't about big wins. It's about tiny wins. Repeated. It's not about discipline in huge doses. It's about tiny habits done daily. And that idea sat with me like a quiet storm. It didn't yell at me. It didn't shame me. It just whispered, what if this is it? What if you've been chasing the wrong things, the wrong way, with the wrong expectations? What if the life you want isn't on the other side of a breakthrough, but on the other side of a tiny habit done every single day? So I made a choice. I decided to pick one area of my life, my money, and improve it by just 1% a day. That was it. No massive life overhaul. No quitting my job or selling all my stuff or going off the grid. Just 1%, just small shifts, but every day. And let me tell you what happened next. On day 1, I read 1 article about investing. That's it. It took 5 minutes. I didn't take action. I didn't build a spreadsheet. I just learned something new. That was enough. On day 2, I checked my bank account. Really checked it. Not just glanced at the number, but looked at the transactions, the patterns, the subscriptions I had forgotten. I wrote down where every dollar went. It was uncomfortable. I didn't like what I saw, but it was real. And for the first time, I saw it. Day 3. I canceled a subscription I hadn't used in months, saved $19 instantly. That's not life-changing, but it felt like something had shifted. It was a decision, a cut, a win. Day 4, I watched a video about compound interest. For years, I had heard the phrase but never fully grasped what it meant. That day, I understood. My money could work for me if I stopped spending all of it on stuff that didn't matter. Day 5, I opened a high-yield savings account. I had no idea those even existed. It wasn't much, but it was a container, a space that told my brain, this is for future you. None of it was glamorous. None of it went viral. There were no Instagram stories, no dramatic turning point. But day by day, brick by brick, something started to shift inside me. I stopped being afraid of my money. I stopped ignoring it. I stopped treating it like a source of guilt or shame. I started talking to it, tracking it, respecting it, and it started showing up for me in return. Not in big ways at first, but in feelings, in energy, in confidence. The funny thing is, I didn't even notice the change at first. It was slow, invisible, but after a few weeks, my anxiety was lower. My confidence was higher. I walked differently, talked differently, not because I was rich, not yet, but because I wasn't reacting anymore. I was building. I had a plan. I had momentum. I had agency. And here's where the magic of the 1% habit rule really kicked in. Once I saw how powerful it was in my finances, I applied it everywhere. I started reading just 2 pages a day. Just 2. I didn't aim for a book a week. I didn't even care about speed. I just wanted to be the kind of person who reads and finishes what they start. And you know what? Within a year, I had read 14 books. Books I actually remembered. Books that changed me. Books that taught me to think differently, dream bigger, act slower. I did 5 push-ups a day. Not 50, just 5. And when 5 became easy, I did 7, then 10. And a year later, I was in the best shape of my life. Not because I crushed a workout plan, but because I showed up daily without fanfare, without failure. I wrote 1 paragraph a day, not a chapter, just a paragraph. At the end of the year, I had a manuscript, a full draft, something I had dreamed about for years and never finished. Done. You see where this is going? The 1% habit rule doesn't feel like it's working until it's undeniable. It's like growing a bamboo tree. Nothing happens for months. No shoots, no leaves, just silent roots digging deeper. And then one day, boom, it shoots up fast, unstoppable. That's what happened to me. I wasn't just saving money, I was saving myself. I was becoming the kind of person I used to envy, not because I had more, but because I was more. More present, more consistent, more grounded. And that spilled into everything. I became better at my job, more focused. I started asking better questions in meetings. I started pitching ideas, leading quietly, stepping up. Not because I aimed for a promotion, but because I was 1% better each week. And those small wins added up. I got noticed. I got raises. I got freedom. I became less reactive with people, less triggered, because I was journaling 1 thought a day. I was reflecting, listening, editing myself before lashing out. That saved relationships, restored trust, brought peace, and here's the truth I want you to feel in your bones. Massive success is just the visible accumulation of invisible effort. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be consistent. You don't need to leap. You just need to step. And if you do that every day, relentlessly, patiently, you will look back and barely recognize the version of you who started. Because you'll be stronger, wiser, kinder, freer. You'll have a body you love, a bank account that gives you choices, a mind that you trust, a life that feels yours, not borrowed, not random, yours. And it all starts with one question. What's one thing I can do today to be 1% better than yesterday? Just one. That's the whole game. Because anyone can do that. You don't need to be rich or talented or lucky. You just need to begin today and then begin again tomorrow. That's how we build. That's how we grow. That's how we become unstoppable. Here's what no one tells you. Massive results don't require massive effort. They require micro consistency, a quiet daily drip of progress. And the best part? It stacks. It compounds. It builds something far greater than the action itself. Because once you build a 1% habit in one area, and I mean truly live it, something shifts inside of you. It's not just about money anymore. It's not just about routines. It's about identity. You start to believe yourself. You start to trust your own word. You begin to show up, not because you feel like it, but because that's who you are now. You become someone who finishes what they start. You become someone who doesn't abandon themselves halfway through. And that trust, that internal alignment, is worth more than any course, strategy, or investment tip you'll ever find on the internet. Because when you trust yourself, you become unstoppable. That's when the wealth begins to snowball. Not just in your bank account, but in your decisions, your habits, your posture, your relationships. You begin to walk into rooms differently. You look at problems not as obstacles, but as creative puzzles. You treat your time like a scarce resource. You talk to your money like a partner. And slowly, quietly, the world begins to respond. That's what happened to me. This is not a sexy story. There's no dramatic overnight success. No viral moment. No, I made $1 million in 90 days headline. And that's exactly the point. The 1% habit rule is invisible until it becomes undeniable. It's the invisible labor of building a new self. It's the quiet victory of keeping a promise when no one is watching. It's doing the boring thing again and again until one day you wake up and realize the boring thing built the extraordinary life. That's what happened to me. Fast forward 2 years and I'm no longer the same person. I'm debt-free. I have 6 months of emergency savings. I invest consistently every month without needing to feel like it. I sleep peacefully. I'm no longer haunted by the what-ifs because I've built a safety net. I've built momentum. And more than anything, I've built a sense of inner safety that no amount of external noise can shake. And it all traces back to one ridiculously simple question I ask myself every single morning. What's one thing I can do today that makes me 1% better than yesterday? Just one. That's it. Not 10, not perfect, not overwhelming. Just one. One small action, one small win, one deposit into the bank account of who I was becoming. And now I want to ask you, what's your 1% today? Maybe you're watching this and feeling like you've fallen too far behind. Maybe you've made some money mistakes. Maybe your dreams feel distant, like they belong to someone else. Maybe you're tired, discouraged, feeling stuck in the same cycle. I get it. I've been there. But let me tell you something that most people forget. You are never too far gone for a 1% shift. You don't need to change your life today. You don't need to fix everything this week. You just need to make a shift, just a pivot, just a lean in the right direction. That's it. Start a money journal. Open up your notes app and write down how you feel about your finances today. Be honest, be raw. Read one page of a finance book. Just one, not the whole book, just a page. Put fall into a savings account. Yes, just 5. It matters. It counts. Call your bank and ask one question you have been too afraid or embarrassed to ask. Google one investment term you don't understand. Unsubscribe from one unnecessary service. Make one better food choice. Say no to one impulse purchase. Set up one automation. That's it. One. Every day. That's the magic. That's how empires are built. Not with fire, but with a spark. Then another, then another. The world loves to worship explosions, but it's friction, not fireworks, that creates transformation. And one day, not right away, not dramatically, but inevitably, you'll look back and realize you've become the person you always hoped you'd be. Not because of one big move, but because you honored one small commitment. Every single day. The 1% habit rule is not about doing more. It's about doing less, but more intentionally. It's not about hustle. It's about rhythm. It's not about more time. It's about more clarity, more agency. It's about looking at the same 24 hours and asking, what's the one thing today that will move me 1 inch closer to the life I want? Because when you live like that, with quiet consistency, you begin to build a kind of wealth that money alone can't measure. You build the wealth of knowing who you are, the wealth of being able to trust your own choices, the wealth of waking up and knowing that even if things are messy, you are moving in the right direction. And that's the kind of wealth that no one can take from you. Not the market, not the boss, not the economy, because it's inside you. It's baked into your daily rhythm. It is you. So I'll leave you with this. What's your 1% today? Pick one thing. Do it. And tomorrow, do one more. That's it. No hype, no drama, just you showing up, showing. And I promise you, the version of you 12 months from now will thank you for what you did today. They will look back with gratitude, with awe and with respect, not for the person you dreamed of becoming, but for the person who showed up quietly, consistently, powerfully, when no one else was watching. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for motivation. Don't wait for January 1st or Monday morning. Just begin. Because once you do, you'll start building a kind of life that feels like you. And that, my friend, is what freedom actually looks like.